All right, welcome back to the second half of Plain Talk. I got to tell you, Pat, I really enjoy talking to you. You're wrong on so many things, but at least we have the same set of facts when we talk about things, which isn't often the case in a political dialogue. So, a good conversation. Our guest here today is Justin Kringstad, who's the executive director of the North Dakota Pipeline Authority. Justin's been in that position since 2008. And as I was thinking about this interview, I was thinking, man, Justin's job has probably changed a lot since 2008 in dealing with pipelines. It feels like, and maybe I'm naive and I'm just more aware of it now, that pipelines are so controversial. I mean, you have DAPL, you have Keystone, you have Summit, you have all these different things. Before we get into the Bakken East conversation, do you feel like your job has gotten more complicated or controversial? Because it's not just like one side that's against them, or it seems like the far right and the far left both have concerns. The NIMBY arguments. How are things, Justin?
Yeah, so it's been an interesting journey, right? So getting started in North Dakota, really kind of pre-Bakken, some of my earlier work with the Geological Survey, then transitioning into this role in 2008, and really at the very cusp of things getting exciting for the oil and gas sector in North Dakota. So we had no idea at that time how big and how grand things were going to get from a volume perspective, from a logistics and challenges. So it really kind of growing with the progress, trying to stay ahead of it as best you can. This has been a play that has challenged all the experts all along. It's always surprising us on what type of levels of production. But kind of getting back, directly to your question about, how the role has changed and evolved. Yes. So prior to really kind of the Keystone XL, I would say, in my memories, what kind of kicked off, really the attention on it. Obviously, I wasn't in the profession during the Trans-Alaskan Pipeline, so I don't know what type of attention a project like that brought. But really, once that, it brought pipelines, pardon the pun, to the surface, right? This is an industry that largely works out of sight, out of mind. That's the way they enjoy operating. They like to just be a key asset for our economy and work, kind of out of sight, out of mind for the common everyday person. But really, it has evolved, a lot more attention. So we do a lot of education. I'm always at events talking with whether it's industry professionals, the general public, teacher education events, and just trying to educate people of what are pipelines. It's such a mysterious industry because everything happens, outside of view, right? It's not like other infrastructure that you can point to and say exactly, this is what it is, this is what it looks like, this is how it impacts you in your everyday life. So it has been. It's been never a dull moment in the last 17 years, and a lot of exciting stuff yet to come.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I was hoping you could join us. And I appreciate you adjusting your schedule to do this because I was at the Petroleum Council annual meeting and saw your presentation. And I mean, it's been an interesting road. And of course, infrastructure is always challenging, but it's gotten a little more challenging with some of the things that Chad pointed out. But the reality is, there's some exciting things going on in this state and in this nation, but especially in this state. And if it's all right, I'd like to jump right into that Bakken East pipeline. The potential for solving all kinds of problems in North Dakota, but also the economic impact opportunities that comes with. I was fascinated by it. Before we get into kind of those things, though, can you describe for our viewers a little bit about what that project is, how it came about, where it's at, and then we can get into the potential for the future.
Yeah, and I'm going to take a step even further back for a little bit of context for folks. And so North Dakota, everybody's heard of the Bakken oil play, right? And it is just that. From an economic perspective, the Bakken resource is largely driven by the oil economics. But with every barrel of oil that gets produced in North Dakota, you get natural gas that comes to the surface with it, just like a Diet Coke, right? You can't drink Diet Coke without the fizz. You can't pull up and produce a Bakken barrel without the fizz, the natural gas that comes to surface with it. And because of that dynamic, you have to have a means in order to manage the natural gas production. And the current infrastructure has been challenged really since day one. People are very familiar with some of the flaring challenges we've had in the past. We've been able to get ahead of that in very successful fashion in the last couple of years here. But long term, we need major natural gas infrastructure investments to continue. These wells get actually gassier as they get older, so they produce more natural gas relative to oil. So the challenge doesn't get any easier. It actually amplifies in these outward years. And so when we're looking at a 10, 20, 30-year infrastructure build-out plan, we have to address that. And we've got a couple of options in North Dakota. So the traditional model that we've used in the past, because we didn't have economic drivers and opportunities here in North Dakota, was you develop or expand or put North Dakota natural gas on another pipeline and it goes down to Chicago or it goes down to the Rockies, and it's benefiting some other economy where they're going to build plants and power and all these exciting things for their economy in those other states. What we have now, which is very unique, is an opportunity where things are starting to align, where we've got the upstream need, or we need more natural gas transportation out of Western North Dakota. We've got tremendous opportunities developing across central and eastern North Dakota to marry those two dynamics, where we've got large demand coming in the eastern portion and central portion of the state. We've got a need on the western side. And so the Bakken East project is exactly trying to address that opportunity to say, let's build a large scale project from center of the Bakken all the way over to that Fargo community area and marry these two needs and propose and present all kinds of opportunities for companies looking at the need for more energy, whether that's for traditional power, data centers, industrial, commercial opportunities, expansions in communities. The list goes on and on of who's going to benefit from expanding natural gas in that direction.
Justin, can you talk with? Oh, I'm sorry, Pat. Can you talk about the $500 million? What exactly that means? Is that just a chunk of money you're given to the companies, or is it a guaranteed loan, or what is North Dakota's stake in this?
Yes, so exactly. So perfect question. So the Pipeline Authority, when it was set up back in 2007, really to start addressing the transportation needs, it was given a whole lot of tools, and that the agency is 100% non-regulatory. It's under the North Dakota Industrial Commission. And so it's not approving projects, but it can support through various mechanisms. And one of those tools is the ability to participate as a shipper on a pipeline system. And so pipelines, with their basic business model, they operate just like UPS or FedEx does, where if you open up a UPS truck, it's filled with Amazon, Walmart, it's other people's goods that they're just transporting for a set fee for that haul. Pipelines work in the exact same method in that they provide service for others to ship on their pipeline system. Any new pipeline project, pipelines are extremely risk averse. Once you put a pipe in the ground, it's not like a truck that you can put someplace else, a storefront that you can change into something else. So they want firm upfront commitments, typically for 10 to 20 years from shippers before they'll ever build a new pipe. And getting industry to sign up for firm, long-term take-or-pay commitments has been challenging. So one of the tools in our toolbox at the Pipeline Authority is the ability to participate as a shipper on a pipeline system. And so the project that we're talking about here, Bakken East, it's roughly a billion cubic feet of natural gas capacity. And so a very, very large system. North Dakota has the opportunity to participate at roughly a 15% of that, kind of in that 150,000 cubic feet, MCF, 170 million cubic feet, somewhere in that ballpark. So we can provide the intent there, the way the legislation is written and kind of perfectly aligned is as a bridge. So as a shipper, the state would take capacity along with other private sector to get the economies of scale necessary to get a project commercially viable. And then as soon as that capacity is in the state's hand, we immediately change directions into trying to release that capacity. Our goal is that when this project comes online in late 2030, no dollars are spent until 2030 by any shipper, the state and others. And so in 2030, we will have already released our capacity in full so that not a single state dime is ever spent on the project, and that other private sector companies that are still a year off from making decisions, 2 years off, in this 5-year window, that we can just, again, take it, make sure the project gets moving, and then release it immediately. If we're still holding capacity when the project is in service at any level, We can then work with private sector gas marketers to monetize that to try and minimize any exposure for the state. And absolute worst case, if everybody sat on their hands and did nothing, then you're obligated to pay that commitment that the state has made. But the intent immediately is to get this in other private sectors so that no state money is ever spent.
So to really give people perspective in why this is important is it's my understanding that if the Grand Forks Ag project comes to fruition and happens, that's really it for the available industrial gas in the valley. And if we don't do something over there, the opportunity for growth, whether it be power development, industry, any of those kinds of things, is gone. Unless we build a pipe over from Minnesota and tap into something that's already, quite frankly, in high demand. So if we don't do this, the economic opportunity in central and especially eastern North Dakota is greatly hamstrung, correct?
Yeah, so when you think about North Dakota, there's really a sharp line that's drawn kind of in that Bismarck to Minot area where east of Bismarck, the pipeline infrastructure from western North Dakota moving east is extremely limited. It really just serves Steele, Jamestown, just the communities along the route. It has no incremental capacity to serve any type of meaningful load. Eastern North Dakota today, Fargo, Grand Forks, they are fed with Canadian natural gas. There's really very little to no North Dakota gas that makes it to eastern North Dakota, those communities. So if you are a new industrial user, power, you've got two options in eastern North Dakota. The first option would be for your project to put someplace else so that you don't have natural gas issues. You could put it in Iowa, you could put it wherever. But if you do need natural gas in eastern North Dakota, you can say, okay, I can expand and commit to a new project that's just going to buy more Canadian natural gas coming down into the Red River Valley off of a system that exists over in Minnesota. It would have to be expanded. There's an expense there. Or we can start to look west and say, okay, here's another project that finally we've got an opportunity to say we don't have to look to Canada any longer for that natural gas supply. We can look to a domestic source. From a supply security standpoint, there's a whole nother argument to be made that right now eastern North Dakota is fed really with one option, and that is coming down from Canada, and it comes down through western Minnesota. If anything ever happens to that line, whether it's maintenance, unexpected outage, incident, God forbid it happens in the winter, that gas supply is cut off, and it's an emergency situation extremely quickly. So having, even on the supply security side, a secondary option for natural gas into eastern North Dakota, there's a whole nother case to be made that from getting domestic U.S.-based natural gas to our friends and communities in eastern North Dakota makes a ton of sense, along with everything we've already talked about on the oil and gas sector.
And Justin, right now, like we're flaring off a big chunk of this natural gas. Is that correct? I mean, so when I hear you talk about this, I think about the conversations we had with Applied Digital not that long ago about data centers and the energy consumption of data centers. And one of the things that will keep energy prices low is that we do have excess that we're either shipping off to other places or we're losing in the atmosphere. I mean, is that one of the goals here, is just to create another pipeline of energy, yes, to help balance out, like, as we're bringing in industry. I can't help but think about these data centers and what this could mean for them in eastern North Dakota.
Yeah, and so great to quickly answer your first question. I'm proud to say that the private sector, they've stepped up. Flaring is now down to 4%. And
Okay,
so it is
wow,
no longer
great.
the 25, 30+% that it's been in the past. What that means, though, is that's twofold. Pipelines getting developed, but also operators in West North Dakota, largely the appetite is not there to let natural gas flare in the same way it has in the past. So what that means is that if we don't have natural gas solutions in place, operators just will not drill. They will simply just delay or move rigs and capital to Oklahoma or other places where they don't have natural gas challenges, and they will just throttle down activity in West North Dakota until space frees up.
So what you're saying is they don't want to burn away something that they could be selling at
Correct.
this. Okay.
Yes.
Well, and that's always been the case, quite frankly,
Right.
is that nobody wanted to do that because the state doesn't make their cut. The people that have the companies don't get paid for that. There's no revenue coming from it, and the royalty owners don't get paid in that. So I think from day one they've wanted. The problem is it's had nowhere to go, and this is a big idea solution. There's been a lot of, Justin, you can speak to this. There's been a lot of things done. And in process, like the new Basin gas plant that's coming online, those kinds of things to fix this problem, but none of them have the scale that this could help address.
Correct. And so, I mean, really the changing dynamic in the power sector, whether that's for just traditional getting electrons onto the grid or for data centers that Chad was mentioning with Applied Digital and some of the projects they've got going on, the conversation has completely flipped from a scenario where we were just trying to find any means of moving natural gas and energy out of West North Dakota to a point where now we've got people coming here saying we want it, we've got opportunities, and it's been exciting the last 18 months as this project behind the scenes has really gotten the momentum that it has.
Justin, can you talk about the timeline? Because it feels like, I think the things that I read, there's 2 phases. One to central and then one to east. What's the timeline for that?
Yep. So right now, any pipeline project, you're typically from when it's made public, you've got 3 to 5 years of just regulatory right-of-way work to get done. This project in particular has been in the works for well over 10 years, in just the business development and up, work to get to this point. So we still, though, the plan right now is 2 segments, a west segment, which will be done late 2029. That's from Watford City to the Underwood, North Dakota area. And then the second phase right now, the plan is to construct that the next construction season, have that in service by late 2030, all the way over to the Fargo area, as well as a new lateral that's been added to the project down to Ellendale, North Dakota for Applied Digital.
Which is, we've talked a lot about the data centers as part of this, but the opportunity is not just limited to that. One of the things that we've run into, especially in eastern North Dakota, all the way down to Wahpeton, is that we have not been able to take advantage of value-added agriculture. This is value-added energy, right? Well, what about agriculture, right? We all know the more that we handle here, produce here, and add value to in North Dakota, the better it is for everybody, including our farmers and ranchers. This opens the door for more value-added agriculture in North Dakota, does it not? Especially in the central and eastern part. Part of this eventually will even get to mine it, as I understand.
So perfect. Yeah, I'll start with the ag and energy nexus and bringing those together. Absolutely. Just in conversations this morning with a project that's looking at fertilizer. Natural gas is their biggest feedstock for fertilizer. And so whether or not this project is a good fit for that, and there's absolute grain drying, all kinds of opportunities. The project that just got completed less than a year ago to Wahpeton, again, today that's served with Canadian natural gas coming down into Wahpeton, and this would change the dynamic as well as this project would get east. And then on forgetting the second part of your question.
Minot.
Minot. Yes, there is a second project not tied to the Bakken East that is becoming more and more public now, which is from Tioga to Minot for some other industrial loads. So we've got all kinds of exciting stuff. You sit back and you start putting on paper. You've got the Wahpeton project less than a year ago. You've got the Bakken East project. You've got the project, the Minot industrial pipeline, the Tioga to Minot, another pipeline being built to that new Basin power plant. And so there are so many exciting solutions coming. This is something that we absolutely need, every single one of these pieces. And instead of me now being on here with a doom and gloom scenario where we're going to see capital constrained and everything else, this is as exciting as it gets. I couldn't be more happy to see what the private sector's out there doing.
One of the things that I think, and before we run out of time with you, one of the things I think is important to remember that even if other new projects don't come on board, North Dakota has an increased demand for electricity, and the best way to get there is natural gas. And that's going on all over the state. We're going to need to do something, even if the rest of it flatlines. We have to do something when it comes to electric generation. Is that the case?
That is, and I'm certainly not a power expert. I've got a counterpart on the North Dakota Transmission Authority that understands everything on that dynamic. But yes, everything that I can see and read and hear is that power across the U.S., North Dakota, we've got the energy, we've got the workforce, we've got the wherewithal to make some of these projects happen. And then again, moving those electrons, whether it's to Minnesota or other directions.
Justin, just backing up a little bit and more generally about pipelines. I mean, it's a lot of miles and a lot of, I assume, some private land that these pipelines go through. What is the process for the company to build that sort of community, to get buy-in from landowners, that type of thing? Do you expect any problems with this? Because it feels like that's usually when pipelines get into trouble, when landowners get a little bit nervous or say, NIMBY sort of arguments, and you hear eminent domain and everybody gets sort of angry. So what is the process to make sure landowners are on board?
So it's up to the private sector. Obviously, they go out. The Bakken East project would be FERC regulated, so it's the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. So that is a federal regulatory process on the siting side. But before any of that gets started, WBI on the Bakken East has already publicly said they've been out. They've got 85% approval from landowners so far, as they've even just started to get survey access onto land. Natural gas pipelines, in general, typically are much more well received. I wouldn't even. Communities want these natural gas pipelines for their hospitals, schools, ag opportunities. So natural gas does not get wrapped up into some of the muddiness that some of the other liquids and pipeline systems that we've seen do.
Justin, are they physically smaller? Is a natural gas pipeline, or is it about the same size as an oil pipeline or something like that?
It depended by this. This will be a large pipeline, so it's 36 inches in the west, 30 inches. That would be some of North Dakota's larger pieces of pipe. And the relationship. So WBI does have existing pipes. So if they have a name, they've got a face, they've had a presence with a lot of these landowners. Some of the pipe will just follow existing corridors, and so landowners that have become comfortable, they know the company. It's been a North Dakota base over 100 years now of providing natural gas service. And there are communities that, we'll just say Beulah and Hazen are a couple of examples that have been very vocal. They want these pipelines to come to those communities. They want these pipeline systems coming to them. So
does the landowner get paid?
Yes, the landowner is paid a right-of-way and easement agreement that gets put in place, just like any other linear infrastructure. But again, there's always challenges, but the key is upfront early communication in any pipeline project. You got to open that conversation, see what's important to that landowner, make adjustments as necessary, and work through the process. It's not easy, but I think there's ways to get it done and to keep everybody.
And one of the things
happy.
that infrastructure is facing is influences beyond just the landowner himself, but there are people out there trying to undermine these kind of projects all over the country. You talk about whether it be people that are opposed to fossil fuel development of any way, shape, or form. There's even foreign players that are doing this. Your point about early and often communication and working out front is the key to making sure that we don't get upside down in this project, because there will be people who want it to fail. And yet we can't afford to have that happen because of all the reasons that you've laid out. So, I mean, I think it's wise for you to recognize early on that this communications and aggressive communications is important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that there will be community outreach events on schedule very soon, coming months. And so yes, people will, the landowners along the route, again, many have already been contacted and in conversations with WBI, but then the broader community base and will certainly be.
I think the one thing that might be nice about this pipeline compared to some of the other ones that have gotten into trouble is it's just in North Dakota, right? And North Dakotans, I think, understand energy infrastructure much better than maybe our folks down in South Dakota or some of the neighboring states. I mean, we're used to this stuff. This is part of who we are. But I agree with Pat. I mean, there are people who are against anything. And it's a weird coalition of the right and the left, right? The far right and the far left. So I think that early communication is great. Well, Justin, any final words or any final questions, Mr. Finken?
No, just thank you for Yeah, well, and thank you for coming on. This is a vitally important project that has some tremendous opportunity for the state. So I appreciate you taking time. I know how busy you are, and so it's great that you could join us.
Yeah, Justin, we really appreciate it. And like we said earlier, we sort of did this show in reverse order. Usually it's we have a guest on and then the host talks smart. This time the hosts talked smart and then we had the guest on. So again, thank you, Justin, for being on today. Thank you to all of our listeners. As always, if you want to leave us a voicemail or a text, you can reach us at 701-587-3141. Follow us on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, and X at Plain Talk ND. Next week, Rob will be back. Again, good luck to Rob and his family as Harlan gets married this weekend. A very exciting time. But Rob will be back next Wednesday, and I think I will be here too. So they'll be we'll back to be the normal co-host. We'll miss Pat, but certainly thank him for his guest hosting this week. Thank you, Pat. Thank you, Justin. See you all next week.
Thank you.
That's it for today on Plain Talk, the voice of North Dakota politics. Plain Talk is a production of Forum Communications Company. Got a question, comment, or suggestion? Leave us a voicemail or send us a text message at 701-587-3141. That's 701-587-3141. If you haven't subscribed to Plain Talk yet, you can find us on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform like Spotify or Apple Podcasts. For those of you who are already hooked, give us a rating or review. And don't forget to share or tell a friend. Special thanks to my co-host Chad Oban, and from myself and everyone at Plain Talk, thanks for listening.
I hadn't read it. My wife turned to me and said, "Damn it, Port made me cry again."